Hello, and welcome to episode 39 of the Steam Deck podcast, Flip Screen Games, a weekly podcast all about Valve's portable PC powerhouse, the Steam Deck. I'm your host this week, Stephen Radford, joined as always by my very good friend and co-host, who's suited and booted, Mr. Max Wright.
Ahoy, Steve. There's a bit of a serious air about the beginning of this podcast.
What's happened? I went away for a week, and I come back, and like something grave has happened.
Chaos has taken over, and Pete and I were acting up a little bit last week, and we've had a few complaints. And I prepared a statement that I just want to read at the start of this episode,
Okay.
just to just sort of make amends by way of an apology, really. So yeah, unfortunately Pete isn't here, but I'll do it for both of us. So yeah, I'm just gonna look to camera one. On behalf of myself, Pete, and the whole of the Steam Deck podcast team, I'd like to issue a formal apology to Steve and all listeners for some of the comments that were made at the beginning of last week's show. Pete and I were wrong to refer to ourselves as the real technical experts, as in reality this entire show is written by ChatGPT. Even this statement was half-assed by a computer, and it was heinous and unfair of us to mock Steve's inability to understand simple technological terms and concepts, and I'm legally obliged to admit that he does know how to turn the Steam Deck on and off. He also knows how to control the volume, and he can nearly reach all of the buttons. We regret referring to him as the face of the show, and we feel deep remorse for saying that he's cute. He's not just a piece of meat, and I'm sure that he has lots to give as a person. However, he is very cute.
I've got a face for radio. Face for radio.
I'm going to have to apologise again next week for that. You've got a voice for radio as well, Steve.
Oh, thank
Not that
you.
I was agreeing with that. More of this next week's statement is going to be even longer. Steve is our friend, and we will continue to support his growth and do our best to make him feel like our peer, even when he makes it difficult for us. Some of us are 30 years old, not me, and therefore should not be behaving like children by bullying someone who's just enjoying a nice week off. I think we felt safe making those comments because Steve wasn't there to defend himself, making himself fair game in our eyes. And I would never say it to his face, but I greatly respect Steve and all that he does, even though I would never also say it on this podcast behind his back. I've taken the time to reflect on my words, my actions, and my entire beings. And Steve has taken himself to Disneyland, where I'm sure he's having a terrible time, as he's racked with guilt for all the things.
You mean Pete's gone to Disneyland? I'm not in Disneyland,
What did I say,
sadly.
Steve?
Yeah.
Sorry, Pete. I meant Pete. Sorry, yeah. I would hope that Steve and all of you at home can accept this apology, and we promise to do better in future. Kind regards, the Flip Screen Games' #1 tastemaker, Max Wright.
I think we may have to strip
I'm sorry there's such a
that title
serious
from you. That's punishment.
I'd be willing to lose it just to save face. Hopefully this week we have some comments that are less critical, and I think it's fair criticism. But yeah, I just wanted to get that out of the way, and yeah, I hope you can all forgive us, and hopefully we can move forward from this and grow and become closer friends, even after it, Steve. So, do you accept the apology?
Yeah, it's fine. I can accept it. I'm technically useless. I also use ChatGPT for everything, so it's fine.
Good.
Don't worry about it. I ask
nice
Bing questions. I don't even ask Bing. I ask Jeeves.
Ooh.
I type into Ask Jeeves,
Ooh.
and he comes back and he tells me what to do. Yeah,
Takes about half an hour to get the answer.
it does.
but,
Yeah, it really does. Very, very long time.
Well, Steve, I'm glad that we can all be the bigger men in this situation, and I hope that Pete and I use our comedy for good in future and not for evil.
Please, that would be great.
We can get on with the rest of the show now. Let me just strip off.
While you're stripping
you to
off, I'm going to read this question from the question box, which comes from one of our Patreon producers, my dad, Andy Rads.
Yeah.
And he says, with the Asus ROG Ally now available for pre-order, are any of you tempted to buy one? And do you think this will take sales away from the Steam Deck? Or will it be the case, to paraphrase Phil Spencer, that no one is throwing away their Steam Deck to buy an ROG Ally? Now, of course, this week we got the reviews of the ROG Ally. People have units. They're out in the wild. There are press events happening today, if you're listening to this on Friday. And we know pricing. We know now that it is well under $1,000. The Z1 model comes in at $599, and the Z1 Extreme comes in at $699. Reviews seem really mixed. I don't know if you've had a look at any of these, Max, but everyone's only got the Z1 Extreme to test.
of course. Why? Yeah, why would they give the weaker model out for like but like it makes me worried that if the reviews are mixed. I've only really seen sort of IGNs, and I know you've sort of given me some choice quotes from some of them. If they're reviewing the top end model, that I wonder what that sort of lower end model looks like, and if it's by being $599, which I think that's still more than the Steam Deck costs, right?
So it's around
dollars?
I think it's around the same price as the top end model.
Of the Steam Deck.
Yeah, the 512
Yeah,
gigabyte model.
Then I think it's a hard sell. Yeah, then I think that's a hard sell, personally. And I don't think I'm tempted to buy one. I think I'm excited for the prospect of what this means for future, not just ROG products, but products in the same line and the same style. But I don't think specifically this ROG Ally gets me. And we've said before, it's fuck ugly, and it looks uncomfortable, and the D-pad looks like shit.
I think for me
that's my balanced opinion.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you. There's a lot here to like, and the reviews said there's a lot to like, right? They love the variable refresh rate screen and the quiet fan and all of that stuff. It seems like the issue is battery life, which we kind of figured would be an issue. It's got the same or similar size battery pack in terms of amp hours to the Steam Deck, and yet it's more powerful. The TDP's higher. You can run this at double the power, and if you do that, you get less than an hour battery life playing some of these games on the Steam Deck. So if you're playing something like Elden Ring and you want to play that medium settings in turbo mode, they've got that on the Verge has a great breakdown and rough idea of the performance, and I'll post a link to that down in the description. So they've got Elden Ring running on the Steam Deck at 25 frames per second, 720p at medium settings. It'll run at 30 on the ROG Ally in performance mode at 720p medium. So you kind of get that little bit of a boost already. You can run it in turbo mode or turbo mode while plugged in, and you'll get to run it at 1080p at 33 frames per second, and that's on low settings. So there's a bunch of They've also did a bunch of testing on the wattage and what games, if you put it on auto TDP pull. The Last of Us Part 1, for example, in turbo mode, will pull up to 50 watts, and yet The Verge said it still was a blurry mess. And that they said it was not really... the game still dipped below 30 FPS as soon as a single enemy got close. Which was a real shame.
So do you think that's more to do with the system power, or just the game?
That's to do with the game. It's a complete mess.
All right. Okay.
I think really the biggest drawbacks people have highlighted are Windows. When we knew Windows on these handheld devices isn't the best experience as is. It's kind of built for tablets and not necessarily for these. Or built for even computers. It's not necessarily built for these handheld gaming devices. And ROG has their own software layer on top, but The Verge found that crashed and was like it had major UI glitches. They also found that the face buttons. This device
now.
Sorry,
carry on. Don't worry, I'll get to mine.
They also felt that the face buttons stuck quite regularly. Weren't a massive fan of the D-pad.
Shocking.
But that could just be these early pre-release review units, and that when it comes to production, that the face buttons are fixed and these glitches are fixed.
You'd hope so.
There's also still a lot.
Why would you send those units out with sticky face buttons unless you were planning on fixing it? Because surely you're sending it out to die. You're giving a product that doesn't work intentionally, and it could be down to testing. Like you say,
it could have just been that one unit, because IGN were a lot more favourable on it. They gave it 8 out of 10 rather than 5 out of 10 that the Verge gave it, and they saw it as a real Steam Deck competitor. The Verge's choice quote was close but no Steam Deck, whereas IGN were a lot more. A lot hotter on it, and they really loved the Z1 chip inside, and they said the ROG Ally truly feels like a portable Xbox Game Pass machine that many people have been clamoring for. While a frustrating user experience, poor battery life, and lack of Steam Deck style touchpad touchpads do hold it back, it's undeniable how much fun this handheld is to use when it really gets ticking. With a beautiful 1080p screen that's marvelously bright and perfect for playing on the go in any condition, alongside its powerful set of specs and a fierce price tag, the ROG Ally might be the Steam Deck competitor we've been anticipating. And I think I kind of agree with you, Max, that this is the first device we've seen with a Z1 or a Z1 Extreme in. The pricing's great. It's $599 for the 256 gig model. It's $699 for the 512 gigabyte model with the Z1 Extreme in, which is going to launch on June 13th. And it's $699 or £699. So you kind of do the math there. Yeah. I know it's the sales tax thing, and it always is. The pricing in the US doesn't usually include sales tax. It does elsewhere in the world. So we get that 20% increase built in before anyone complains, because I know everyone does. I think for me, this isn't enough to get me to buy. I thought it was going to be. I think I want to wait for another device that has those touchpads, that is nicer looking, that potentially has a better user interface on top of Windows, rather than the Asus ROG Space or whatever they call it.
Yeah, I'm looking at the screenshot here, or the picture of the device. I've seen a picture of it running the ROG software, which looks fine, looks pretty basic. It's just a launcher, really, from what it seems like. You can change some settings, you can access your games, you can open things like Steam.
That's the big thing that it adds, by the way. It's not necessarily the launcher is the big thing, it's the ROG Command Center, and that's very similar to the Performance tab on the Steam Deck, where you can go in and you can change your TDP, you can set the resolution of the screen, you can set frame rate limitation, do all of that good stuff in there. So the Command Center is really the big thing that you get, that is kind of the special sauce that Asus has added.
Well, I'm sure all that's great, but I'm looking at the other screenshot, which is just Windows 11. It's just Windows 11. It's got an ROG background, wallpaper, recycle bin still in the top left-hand corner, a folder on there, and then just like the standard Windows 11 bar on the bottom.
Because that's what it is, and that's what you boot into. You boot into Windows 11. Yeah.
Which I think is, while it's familiar and it means that you don't have to do as much tinkering, and you don't have to make these games work. They will just work if they run on Windows. I do think that you are taking away some of that console feeling that the Steam Deck has when you boot into it, and it feels like while there is the PC mode that's probably more easy to control because of the touchpads and all those things like that, and all the connection options you have with like wireless mouse and keyboard.
Honestly,
and
those touchpads, because I've been running Windows on my Steam Deck pretty regularly for the last couple of weeks since I started talking about it, and I've got a bit of an update that we might get onto later in the episode if we've got time. If not, I'll talk about that next week. And those touchpads, man, they are game-changing when it comes to navigating around the operating system. Yeah, you can use your finger. Windows is not set up for touch on these smaller screens. It just is not. And you need to be able to navigate it with a mouse. And you can navigate Windows on the Steam Deck with the right thumbstick, but it's not precise.
Okay.
And I can't imagine how precise it's going to be on the ROG Ally either.
Yeah. I've said this before. It's like trying to snipe on a controller without like an aim assist versus trying to snipe on a mouse and keyboard, where you point, you click, you know where you want to go, right? Your thumb goes there, you hover over it, you push down. On a stick, you're trying to first of all get it there, and then you've got to let go and hope it doesn't snap somewhere else and go wild. You're like, yeah, I think Windows. I think the top line of the Asus the Verge review says it's time to stop pretending like Windows is the answer, and I agree with that. I think, and that Linux has been a great solution for me, especially as someone who wasn't a big Linux guy before, never touched it, only maybe like Raspberry Pi shit. So getting into it now, I'm like, I can see what the benefit of this is, and I know this has to be a lot of workarounds with things like Proton and stuff, but it does work, and it works very well, and it's clearly a good solution here.
Yeah, I mean, I think Windows could be the answer, but it needs Microsoft to put the legwork in, and we've seen that they had that internal hackathon, and we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago as well. Worth listening to that episode, I think, if you're interested in what Microsoft's kind of been cooking up behind the scenes. I think if they can work on something that's kind of a built-in experience, where rather than booting into a desktop environment, you can either choose to boot into whatever launcher you want, like you can boot into Steam if you want, or it boots into their own launcher. I'd love it if it booted up into an Xbox launcher and it looked like I was running on an Xbox interface, but I could boot into Steam games, or I could boot into Epic Game Store games, or I could play Game Pass games on there. And then I could go to the desktop mode like I can on the Steam Deck. I think if they could get it to do that and get away a lot of the Windows crud and have it be, because there's a lot of performance losses you get by all of that shit running in the background, right? Because I've had to set up Windows 11. I realized Windows 11 on Steam Deck, when you run it on a USB drive, does not allow you to use virtual memory. So I had to completely wipe it and reinstall Windows 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God,
completely wipe it, reinstall Windows 10. There's so much you have to delete, turn off. If you have Windows 10 Pro, you've got to get rid of Microsoft Teams and turn off the stupid one sync or whatever it's called. That's got to go.
Skype pops up all the fucking time.
Yeah, you've got to get rid of the notifications that are coming up. It's not set.
Yeah.
It's not set up for gaming out of the box. There's so much legwork you have to do.
Yeah.
And I just feel like maybe the answer for the ROG Ally is SteamOS. And if SteamOS comes out with its launcher, with its installer in a few months' time, well, because I still think 3.5 is the install that we get, because 3.4.8's out this week. It feels like we're getting ever closer to 3.5, and
they're just running out of numbers.
It's like,
running out of fucking numbers,
and it's almost there. But 3.5 is going to be the big release, as you spoke about last week when I was away. I think if that can be, that could potentially be the answer. Maybe you dual boot. The thing you lose with it is Game Pass, and that is the one reason I'm running Windows at the moment. Is because I want to be able to take advantage of my Game Pass subscription. I'm already paying for it for Xbox, and I'm paying for Ultimate. I want to be able to play some of those games and continue my saves over. So like the game I've started on Xbox, I can continue playing it on Steam Deck while I'm away. When I'm in the house, we've got a question about it later on, I'll remote play, and we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
Another thing, though, for me that's really compelling about the ROG Ally that I would love to see come to a future Steam Deck model revision is the eGPU support. Now, I don't have a PC. I run a Mac, and I've been thinking about building a PC. And it gets to the point where I'm just like, if these things are this powerful, then I can run the majority of games I want to run. But if I can shove an eGPU in, so the internal GPU is not being used, and all of that power can be sucked up by the CPU, then maybe that's the solution for me. Like, I get one of these, I dock it.
Maybe you don't need a PC.
And maybe I don't need a PC.
Is that theoretical, or is that something that they are touting as a feature?
That's something you can do it, yeah. The ROG Ally supports eGPUs out of the box. It's got a PCIe port on the top.
Yeah. I mean, you've already got a screen, you've already got mouse and keyboard, you've already got all of those things. If you're trying to build a PC, and like you said, all you need to do is get an eGPU, attach it in, then that might be the solution. I think this could be the device for you. However, I do think that a $699 plus a GPU,
then I'm getting up to over $1,000
a PC. Yeah. Exactly. And I wonder if, I don't wonder if, I know that you could, for that price, get something that does the performance of this much better.
I think for $699 you could get better in performance than the Z1.
Well, you can, You can. If you just want to do like a 1080p build, you're sorted, right? As soon as you unplug that and you're back to, you're still running Windows, you'll now have the benefit of the eGPU. You're going to go, which I was playing on my Steam Deck, really, even if you do have Games Pass games. Because if you have a PC, you could be doing it on there if you wanted to. But I know it's not handheld, but I think what we need and what we want, I think, I don't even have to question this. We want a middle ground. We want something that, or what we really want is Microsoft to come in and go, let's bridge the gap for you, and let's make something that either works with OS. It's a launcher for all of these machines, right? That allows them to run all Windows games, including Games Pass, but functions more like the Steam Deck and has a lot of the Steam Deck features. Or we want Steam to go the other way and go have Game Pass games on Steam somehow. I don't know how.
I think that's what everyone wants, right? Is Game Pass. Everyone talks about the ROG Ally is the Game Pass machine, and I think you're absolutely on the money there. I think Windows 12, when you activate gaming mode, because there's a mode in Windows 10 and Windows 11 where you can check gaming mode, and then when it will bring up that really, really annoying Xbox bar that no one likes, and we just wish it would go
I turned
away.
it off, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, you can uninstall that thing. That's another one of those things you have to uninstall when you install Windows.
Because that also uses power. That also takes away, like,
it's also
just a little bit.
it's just a tiny bit of the performance being sucked up by a bar.
Enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Silly.
So I feel like Windows 12, if it has the option to you select gaming mode and it comes in, you boot up into a separate launcher, then that'd be great. In the same way that the Steam Deck does. Because whenever I go from running Windows on the Steam Deck to running SteamOS, and I boot up straight into that interface, into the big picture mode now, the new Steam Deck UI, I'm like, wow, this is so much a nicer experience. It feels like I'm playing something that's native, and I'm like playing a console. And that's what people want from these handheld devices. So I think it feels like the ROG Ally gets so close, and in terms of hardware, it's maybe there, but there's like a few teething problems with the buttons, and it's maybe lacking the touchpads. Which, when I initially got the Steam Deck, I didn't think I was gonna be interested in using, but I fell in love with them. I use them all the time. But the software's letting it down, and it's obviously a component that Asus don't control in the same way that Valve controls the software on their side. So it's not as cohesive.
Yes, that's the thing. Steam Deck is on both sides the same team, right? Whereas this is very much, we've taken Windows, we put it on this thing. Microsoft haven't done anything. We've just got a Windows installation, and we've had to make something else that runs on it. But even then, that thing you've made to run on it is still running on Windows. It's still the limitations of Windows. It's still not built for this. And, you know, when you boot the thing up, you're still in Windows 11. You still have to go, cool, let's just hit the start. You can't even just Windows R, type in what you want. You know, you have to go through the menus, because I don't know how the keyboards work on this thing either. I don't know if it's anything
so there's options
the Steam Deck, where it's two buttons.
Yeah, there is options in Windows where if you don't have a keyboard attached, whenever you tap onto a text field, it will automatically bring up the virtual keyboard. It essentially runs in tablet mode, and so I imagine Asus has enabled that by default. But you can also add a little keyboard button down into the start bar. When you click that, it'll bring up the on-screen keyboard. If you're running Windows on Steam Deck, download Steam Deck Tools. Google that. There's a GitHub page, and install that. And it will bring back all of the shortcuts you know and love from SteamOS and put them on Windows. So you can hold down the Steam button and press X, and it'll bring up that keyboard and that virtual keyboard. You obviously, and it looks like Asus has their own solution in the control center that you'll be able to click the control center. I think there's a button that brings up the control center, and then you can click the keyboard button. Yeah. But it's not as elegant a solution as the Steam Deck, I don't think.
The Steam Deck is hardware and software synergizing in a way that I don't think a device has been able to do, like, because they're sort of, someone makes one thing, someone makes the other thing. Steam Deck has that synergy, and I think these new systems need to either get on board with Steam, or they need to start SteamOS, or they need to start working on that synergy that's missing. And I think Microsoft needs to step in and go, all right, fine, we've heard the demand, let's do it. It's just whether that's a financial benefit.
I think it is if they make their own one of these handhelds. If they make an Xbox branded one that's running Windows, but then at that point, do they just make it run the Xbox operating system, which essentially is based on Windows anyway? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's probably more beneficial to them to make the Windows style one, and like maybe brand it as a Surface Gaming or something.
The only thing I'd hate about that is that we lose the freedom of that being on other things. You have to, if you want that experience, you have to buy the Xbox One, and I think then Microsoft have no incentive to do it for anyone else, and then we're just stuck. We have to have SteamOS, or you have to have that Xbox One, because otherwise you just have to have these Windows ones. And it's not like there's another option. It's not like there's a secret third option, or they could make their own OS, because Windows is Windows for a reason. You know, the number one for a reason, because it's fucking everywhere. It's had years of development, and it just runs on everything. And
like you can run Windows even before you install the Linux drivers or the drivers for the Steam Deck. The fact that it can boot and run and it just, Windows knows what to do on something that's completely alien to it, that's never seen before, is really really impressive.
It really is the doom of operating systems, isn't it? Or just
but I feel like Linux is there too. You know, I think SteamOS is going to be capable of running on anything. It's based on Arch Linux, and I I don't know. I think there's pros and cons to both. I think Linux is trying to be. Linux gives you like different flavors of everything, right? So you can have a flavor for gaming, like SteamOS if you want. You can have a general purpose one like Ubuntu if you want to. You can have something that's designed to run in the cloud as an operating system, which might be Ubuntu, it might be like Debian. And Windows is kind of just like, we've got Windows, and you pick what you want to do with it. You can have it as like your productivity machine, or you can play video games on it. But there's no, even if you select a gaming mode when you kind of do the install, you still get all the other crud that comes with it. It will still install Microsoft Paint, and it will still install Microsoft Teams, even if you don't care about any of that stuff.
Do you just call Microsoft Paint crud?
Yeah, I don't want that on my machine. What am I doing with Microsoft Paint when all I want to do is download?
You're drawing loads of squiggly lines and you're filling in the gaps in different colours, Steve. All right.
All I want to do is download like Forza on Game Pass and play that on my handheld. I don't want to do any of that stuff, and it should be easier for me to do it. And it seems like
it should be.
That is really the block that devices like the ROG Ally are going to be missing. And I think if we can get one of these devices running SteamOS, maybe that's when it becomes appealing to me. But at the moment, I think it's probably going to be I'll pass on that, because the Steam Deck still Steam Deck's powerful enough for me at the moment. I've never felt like, apart from The Last of Us, which is still a disaster by the way, and is still a disaster on the ROG Ally by the sounds of it. Apart from that game, I've not once found a game where I'm just like, you know what, this doesn't run, and I want to play this game and I can't.
Yeah, I feel like, just to cap my thoughts on this, I'm probably just reiterating what I said earlier, to be honest, but I feel like this is a great first look into what other non-Steam Deck devices that are trying to do exactly what Steam Deck did. This isn't a streaming thing. This isn't like a cloud device like the other ones have been. This is the first like real affordable Steam Deck competitor, and I think that because it's a first go, it's only for people that are like the proper early adopters of technology, right? Whereas we were early adopters of the Steam Deck, people that want to be early adopters of these Windows devices, in the sort of more affordable, not the £1,000 Aya Neos and things like that. This is the device to go to. But I am excited for what this means. I'm excited for the potential of what this does, not what the product is right now.
This makes me really excited, not only for other Z1 devices, but for what Valve can do for their next Steam Deck. Because, get a chip with RDNA 3 in there, add an eGPU slot so we can use this as a desktop device if we want to, and that dock can actually do something meaningful rather than it just be plugging into a USB port. I think stuff like that, it's things I hope they're keeping an eye on and looking at, and I think they are. They seem to be really kind of on the pulse when it comes to the things they're adding into the software. And we've got that upcoming hardware revision with the new cooling system inside the device, which seems to be real and is coming. We've seen more and more of those leaking out. We don't know what effect that has yet, but it really feels like they're listening to the complaints people have had about the Steam Deck, and they've worked to improve them. That we've seen things like the buttons being changed, like the Steam button and the quick access button. They were changed because they felt mushy in the initial first batch. I've got one of the mushy ones. My dad's got one where it feels a little bit more clicky, and things like that have been improved in the same way that they improved the fan noise and things like that. So I do think they are listening, and hopefully that they kind of continue to do that for the next version of the Steam Deck, which I think will be slimmed down and probably a little bit more powerful.
Another issue to hop back and take that cap I put on a second ago off. What you said there about Steam listing, Steam changing things, even with software, like, we quickly changed this, blah, blah, blah. That's not as easy on Windows because you're waiting for...
It's like annualized releases at this point.
So a Windows update... Yeah, a Windows update comes out and it could break everything. It could change anything. You could update Windows and suddenly nothing works. And there's not that granular control that Steam has with SteamOS. You have to... If you have Windows... You have Windows. They'd have to make like a Windows version specifically for that. Like Windows 8 was Windows for everything. It was Windows for tablets. It was Windows for PCs. It was Windows for literally everything. And I still feel like Windows, where they have dropped off some of that tablet support, they don't need phones anymore. They don't need touchscreen support as much anymore. And they've really gone back to what Windows is known for. I feel like they've now streamlined that back and really stuck to this is what we do. It's not as chop and changeable. It's not as it's not like SteamOS in that you can just quickly go, cool, here's a quick patch for this one thing that doesn't work. Windows is just Windows then, which is a shame.
Well, let's talk about Windows on Steam Deck. Before we do that, I just want to thank our Patreon producers for the month of May. They are Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valenz, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Snacky Goat, Ty the Dude, and Wackahula. Thank you all so much for supporting us. And everyone that supports us over at patreon.com/flipscreengames. That's where you can go get early access to all of our shows when Pete's here, when I'm editing them and doing it all. They will not go up early. And you can come join our Discord, get a cool badge, join in the secret super duper secret chat with us. Come and speak to Max now that he's over there, and you can at him and tell him that he's wrong. Just tell him that he's wrong. Doesn't have to be about doesn't have to be about anything. Just tell him that he's wrong. I think that'll be a good time. If you want to find us anywhere else on the web, head over to flipscreen.games. I think that's everything. Yeah.
I really started to panic when you got to the end of the housekeeping that you were going to defer to me like I do to you, and I was about to be like,
no, I wouldn't do that.
That you just handle it. I
wouldn't throw you in the deep end like that. So I want to talk a little bit about Windows on Steam Deck. So the last time I spoke to you, Max, I just installed Windows on my Steam Deck. I had that tiny little USB drive, and I bought that weird
which is very clever. You had your little octopus cable, yeah.
Really great setup. The issue I had was I was running Windows 11, which, by the way, Windows 11, real treat. Adds a lot of things in terms of touch support. You can increase the scaling. You can make the size of the start bar bigger so you can actually touch things with your finger. There's that option I spoke about if you go into the keyboard settings, that if you don't have a keyboard attached, it will automatically bring up the on-screen keyboard so you can like type on it, and it looks really nice. The big issue I had was if you're running a Windows to Go install, and maybe someone listening will be able to help me with this and correct me, it does not support virtual memory. It would not write a page file at all to any. I tried everything. I tried building the drive with a virtual hard drive. I tried building the drive with Rufus or Win to USB. I tried everything. I'd reinstalled Windows 11 like 4 times. I tried putting the page file on a separate partition. I tried it on the internal partition that Windows was installed on. I tried everything. It would not write this page file. The virtual memory available was 0. So every time I would try and run certain games, they would crash. They'd run out of memory. There'd be none left because it would use the 16 gigabytes, and it's like, I need to put this somewhere, because I still need this, and usually Windows will put that in virtual memory, which is their page file, except that didn't exist because Windows 11 on USB drives doesn't support it, and I cannot find out why.
Is it just on USB drive, so a full installation of Windows would work?
As far as I'm aware, a full installation of Windows on the internal drive will work, but a Windows to Go installation will not create the page file, and I think this is a bug in Windows.
That explains why, because every time I've seen people use Windows on Steam Deck before, it's usually like, runs fine, battery life isn't great, but it runs fine. I've never heard of issues like that before, so I was confused about why you were having those issues. But yeah, if you're just running it off the USB, which is how you want to run it, because that's the easiest way to do it, is plug it in, plug it out. You don't have to mess around with SD cards. Like, you found a really easy way to do it. It's just a shame that Windows 11 doesn't want to play ball. And it could be something that comes in, but I also wonder, if it's something that's important enough for them to change.
I think it's going to be important enough for them to change, but Windows to Go is not officially supported anymore, I don't think. And so I think that's probably why. It was always only meant to be an enterprise level feature, and Rufus kind of worked around it and would enable you to install Windows on these USB drives. I think the solution for me is going to be when SteamOS's installer comes out and we can do the dual boot. I think I'm probably going to dual boot Windows, and I'm going to upgrade my internal drive to a 1 terabyte or 2 terabyte drive, so I can have one partition for Windows and one partition for SteamOS, and I can install all of my Game Pass games on the Windows side, and I can plug in my little USB drive and install games to that if I want to, and that can be kind of my way I can share files between the two partitions. I think that's probably going to be the solution for me. For now, though, I've installed Windows 10. Now, Windows 10, with a Windows To Go install built by Rufus, 0 issues. No issues. Page file works
Plug
just
it in,
fine.
it works.
I've got Windows automatically managing the page file, no problem. I set a manual size for the page file because I was messing around with Ryujinx, and it for reasons. I was messing around with Ryujinx, and it needed a specific size page file, which I think was double the RAM that was in the device. So it needed a 32 gigabyte page file. I could set that. It wrote the page file, no problem. So Windows 10 seems to be fine. It's just a bit ugly. It's clunky. It's hot. It feels outdated. The virtual keyboard's not very nice. The touch support's not great, and it's ugly. It's hideous. I can get past that.
And that's just Windows 10, right? That's just Windows 10 you're
just
saying.
Windows
that's right. Because Windows 11 you said you could change things, and yeah.
Windows 11,
I think that now,
beautiful, absolutely beautiful device. OS. I could easily run that.
When I'm supporting Windows 10, I'm like, oh, what am I using here? Like, am I using like a really old OS? And I click on it, I'm like, oh no, it's just 10. Because I'm always on the lookout for Windows 7. I can see Windows 7 like a hawk. But sometimes I'll be in Windows 10 and be like, oh, I don't remember this looking like. I remember this being slick, and now I've used Windows 11. Now Windows 11 is slick, and I wonder if when Windows 12 comes out next year, 2 years, whenever that is, because I know they're going to start doing annualized releases.
I think 12 is going to be this
11
year.
And go,
my guess is 12 this
year. Oh, you
year.
think?
Yeah. I think they're going to go to the annualized releases in the same way that Android's on an annualized release, iOS is, Mac OS is. I think they just go with that and just do the numbers.
I agree.
But Windows 10 works fine. I've been playing Dishonored through Game Pass. Forza Horizon 5, I got it installed. It ran. It went through the benchmarking, which was further than I ever got on Windows 11 because it ran out of memory, and it gave me an issue that there was not enough memory. And I was like, why? Because it should have a page file. Page file wasn't there. Then I couldn't get Forza Horizon 5 to boot again. It would never get past the launch screen, the launch window, and I could not for the life of me figure it out. And it was taking up 120 gigabytes on my drive. So I deleted it, and I was like, sod this, I'll play something else. So I downloaded a bunch of other games. I've been playing Dishonored.
I hope this has a good ending.
Coffee Talk Episode 2. All runs fine. All runs great. Really, really great.
Also, you never got Forza to work?
No, never got Forza to work. Horizon 5 could not get to work.
I thought you were coming in here, you were going to come in here and with like a big, like, I did it, it's great, you should do it. Like, are you saying that it's not worth doing because all of the games that you're talking about probably work just fine on the Steam Deck and SteamOS?
They will work fine on SteamOS, but I think it is worth doing if Game Pass is your thing, or if the games
if Forza Horizon doesn't work.
Well, Forza Horizon doesn't work, but Halo does, and Dishonored does, and you know, all of those games do. There are a lot of omissions that I've noticed from PC Game Pass that are on Xbox Game Pass, though. None of the Persona games are on PC Game Pass, and it's really strange that they're not. Hitman's not on PC Game Pass. In fact, Hitman, which I own, is not even on the Windows Store. It's on the Xbox Store, so I bought it on Xbox, but it's not one of the games that I can install. There's only 2 games I own on Xbox, and I own a bunch of games on Xbox. One of them's Astro Near, and there's another game that I can install through Windows through the cross-buy thing.
Right, okay. Oh, yeah. But Play Anywhere?
Yeah, Play Anywhere. There's only 2 Play Anywhere games I've got that I own.
Really? I guess you use Game Pass.
Yeah, I use Game Pass a lot. So a lot of those games will come over. But yeah, it's an okay. PC Game Pass is okay. I for me, don't think it's necessarily worth the hassle because I own an Xbox and I can just play them on Xbox anyway, and I can remote play them to my Steam Deck if I want to. But I do think it's worth it if you play something like Genshin Impact, where on the Linux side, you'd need to bypass the anti-cheat. The same with Destiny 2. If those are your games that you're playing and they don't run on SteamOS, then yeah, by all means, install Windows 10. It's an easy thing to do. Download Rufus, and it will walk you through the process. It'll even download the ISO for you. You just install it, and then you're in Windows, and you can just shove it on your USB drive and plug it in. There are just obviously those. The biggest caveat is don't use Windows 11 at the moment. It does not support virtual memory.
Well, unless you're installing it to your internal drive, right? Unless you're like
I haven't tried that
uh,
yet, so I can't
okay,
confirm. And have no plans
okay,
to try that until I can dual boot because I'm not
yeah,
wiping my SteamOS install.
yeah. I don't blame you at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good that you did the experiment, and I think I do think sadly you have put me off following because I was going to follow what you did, right? I was going to do it, and I would have probably had the same sort of issues you had, and then maybe would have just given up entirely. Um,
Try
I
Windows
think from what
10.
you've said,
If you use, I know you use Windows 11, but I think if you're interested in Game Pass or there's other games you wanna try, give it a try. Try it on a USB drive. They're
Mhm.
like 25 quid. It's worth it. Um, and it's a fun experiment to see how Windows runs. But yeah, there is like some setup that's required. It will probably take you a couple of hours
I
to
don't
get
want.
Windows done.
I don't want to do all this setup. I
Yeah.
want to do it. No, it sounds good. I think it's a thing for maybe when it's better and when maybe there are some changes to happen and maybe some of the things do work. I don't know. For me now, I think a lot of the stuff I want to do on the Steam Deck, I can just do on the Steam Deck. I can install things through bottles or is that the right thing? Or I can just like
Yeah, Bottles or
add it manually, like
Lutris
we're
or yeah,
using,
any
or
of those.
even just using Proton to run launchers and
Yeah.
stuff. That works fine.
Yeah, I mean that's how I was playing
So
Diablo 4, the
yes,
beta, open beta,
yes.
and I think that's probably how I'll continue to play Diablo 4 rather than playing it through Windows. But I will see how Windows runs as well because I kind of want to see is the performance better over there. I
Yes,
might as well
yeah.
give it a go.
Did you notice any reduced battery life in Windows?
No, I don't think so. I did
No.
miss a
No.
lot of the options. Like it's not easy to
Mhm.
set the refresh rate of the screen. Steam Tools will let you
Onto the
change.
menu, blah blah blah.
Yeah, Steam Tools, which sits down in the little tray, will let you change a bunch of things. So you can change the TDP, you can change the fan speed, so you can set it to either the one that's set by the BIOS or the one that SteamOS uses. You can change the GPU clock speed, all of those things that you can do. You can't you can't set the refresh rate of the screen, so you can't set it to like 40 hertz, which is a real shame. There is a
Mhm.
way to do it. It's just a pain in the ass through Windows, so I've never bothered to do it. I just run the game at 30 FPS instead of 40.
Yeah.
So let's round out
Okay. Yeah.
the show with a question from the question block, which is loosely related, and it's from Team Linux 01 over on the Discord, and they said, "Do you use Remote Play very often, and have you checked out Sunshine/Moonlight for game streaming?" I really do like using Linux, along with newer tech it's bringing, such as Wayland and Pipewire. I really don't like where Windows is going, and never really enjoyed the way they handled it, anyways. Yeah, I think we kind of agree. We like the way the where Linux is going, where SteamOS is going. I use Remote Play all the time, but I don't use Steam's Remote Play, Steam Link, and I don't use Sunshine or Moonlight. I don't have an NVIDIA card, so I can't use Moonlight, and I don't really have a PC anyway. But I use Remote Play from my Xbox and my PS5 all the time. So I'll play Hitman 3. I've got it on my Xbox. I'll play Hitman Freelancer pretty regularly, streaming from my Xbox to my Steam Deck through Greenlight. And I'll use my PS5 when I'm playing a game over there as well. And I'll use Chiaki for that. And there's a couple of videos over on our channel if you want to know how to set that up on Steam Deck. What about you, Max? Do you use any Remote Play stuff to your Steam Deck?
No, I keep meaning to, because every time I like boot on my computer and my Steam Deck's there, it's like you can stream to Steam Deck. I'm like, oh yeah, I forget I can do that. But I also don't know how much benefit that would give me, considering I could then just play the game on my PC on my TV. Maybe when I'm in a situation where everything I own isn't in this one room, and when I am in the sort of the place I'm going moving into, and I've got TV here, PC in one room, another TV somewhere else, blah 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 blah, that I'll probably have more need to be more flexible in that way. And I feel like, okay, I want to play these PC games, but I'm downstairs with my girlfriend and we're hanging out, but maybe she's playing on her Switch, or we're just sort of watching something. I want to play some stuff in the background. You know how you do. That I'd be like, okay, maybe I'll actually take advantage of the improved power of the the PC streaming, and I'm pretty sure you can stream more than just stuff from Steam. You can just stream. There's I wish it was a plugin where you can stream just from the PC. So I think there's some other games. Maybe you don't have to worry too much about. You don't have to worry too much about things not working on the Steam Deck because you can just stream it. But yeah, I don't really stream my consoles to it.
Moonlight's fantastic. From what I've heard, it's really low latency, but you have to have an NVIDIA machine that supports Game Stream. And essentially it's an open source implementation of what the NVIDIA Shield used to stream from PCs to the NVIDIA Shield. So you can just boot up Steam. You can see your whole desktop interface if you want to, and you can just stream it to your Steam Deck. And Sunshine, I believe, is the way you can set up your own server, and then you can use it outside of your house if you want to. So it essentially will run like what's that? NVIDIA GeForce Now. You can essentially run your own version of that if you want to.
That's good because you can use your own processing power. You don't have to wait and things like that. I think that right now I don't have any use case for streaming, but I can see that changing in a few months' time. I
think it depends on what you're playing, doesn't it? Right?
Yeah, that's true. Because you might be just playing an indie game that you don't need the extra power. But then, if I'm playing The Last of Us, for example, and I'm like, I've got to go downstairs, or sorry, I want to go downstairs and spend some time with my girlfriend, not have to. But I want to keep playing this game. Oh, now I've got to open the Steam Deck version versus I can stream it from my PC and have a better experience if the internet's good enough, which who knows. I think it's a nice concept. I just think I don't have any use for it right now. So yes.
Fair enough. Thank you everyone who wrote in this week. And sorry we didn't answer your question, Shiffy Foo. I know you said it was a bit of a joke anyway for Max.
Shitty Foo.
Thanks everyone for writing in. And if you want to ask us a question, you can do that over on our Discord. Find our links over on flipscreen.games. That's our website. Or you can write in at questions@flipscreen.games and we'll include them on next week's show. Max, anything else from you before we wrap out this week's show? I think we covered everything. Right?
I think, statement. Things have happened.
We didn't dunk on Pete enough. I think that was the problem.
No, I think, some shows this week we've really gone in on Pete, and I think maybe I forgot he existed really during this show, so that's probably why it is. There we go. One final dunk on him. He deserves it.
Fair enough. Thanks for listening, and we shall see you on the next one. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.